Two of things that I experienced in my delivery postpartum journey that I didn't see too many people on the internet talking about. Context in part one, I spoke about how I've given birth multiple times. In 2022 was with my daughters. Unfortunately, they were both born stillborn, so I did it without an epidural. And then with my son, I chose to have an epidural because I was induced, and those Pitocin contractions are not a game. And so I remember I went as long as I could without an epidural, and then I was just like, hit my back. So they gave me the epidural. That is a wild experience, to sit still while you're having contractions and you cannot move. Like, it is imperative that you don't move. And I remember, like, the epidural was working, I laid down, and they're like, are you completely frozen? I was like, oh, I'm not completely frozen, but, like, my pain level went from, like, a 20 to, like, a 5. So I was like, oh, I'm good. And they're like, what do you mean you're not completely frozen? I was like, oh, it's this section. I think it was my right side. It's this little section. I'm like loading up on coffee, even though it's the middle of the day. I'm like, hello. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. I was like, no, I'm not completely frozen. So then they bring out the ice. They do the ice test. And they're just like, you can feel this? And I'm like, I'm not understanding why they care so much, because my pain level just like went down. Like, what are we upset about here? And you're supposed to be completely frozen, apparently. And I guess 10% of the time, for some people, they're not completely frozen. And that's hard for the anesthesiologist because they don't know if it's like me and my body or if it's maybe the placement of the epidural. Like, they're not sure. And I was like, it's fine. Like, okay, the pain has declined. So they did this whole like moving me around, trying to get the medicine to move around and yada, yada, yada. I think I threw up. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot. So finally I get to rest. I sleep. I'm like maybe 5 or 6 centimeters dilated. Don't ask me about time frames because I don't remember time frames. And so I remember I took a rest and I woke up and the epidural, it had, maybe it was 3-4 hours. Maybe it was 3 hours. I don't know. I'd have to ask my husband. The epidural completely wore off. And mentally, I wasn't prepared to go back to that pain zone that I was in. I was the devil, him, her, they. I was all of the devils. I was on my side, hitting the side of my bed because I was in so much pain, and it completely wore off. So when it completely wore off, I was like, give me a C-section. Cut him out. Like, I can't do this. And I was actually in more pain because I was like further along in the labor process. It was wild. And so, let me move this. And so, you know, as this is going on, you know, the induction had affected my son's heart rate, and so they thought they were possibly going to do an emergency C-section. They weren't sure, and like at this point, I'm like, either you're doing the emergency C-section or I need another epidural, but a decision needs to be made, and it needs to be made ASAP. Like, what is going on? So then the anesthesiologist was worried, and he was just like, I mean, because like, what if I then need a C-section and then there's an epidural, and I don't understand all the medical. Again, at this time, I was the devil. I was like, my husband tried to utter a sentence, and I was like, oh, like I was like, no one's actually talking to you right now. Like, no one's talking to you. So they decided to give me another epidural, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, my husband's holding my hand, and I can feel this contraction from my right big toe coming. I'm not even being dramatic. I can feel the contraction from my right big toe. And I go, there's a contraction moving, and the anesthesiologist in the most stern way says, do not move. And I'm holding my husband's hand and I'm like, you need to talk me through this. I don't even know what he said. I sat still like a statue while I had a full-blown contraction. A lot of y'all are gonna know what I'm talking about. Full-blown contraction while this doctor is putting a needle in my back. The joke is that they get the epidural in. I was like, oh, awesome. It switched. So I could still feel stuff on my right side. I could now still feel stuff on my left side. So then they start doing the ice test. They're moving me and all the foolishness. I start vomiting. I contracted and vomited at the same time. I was like, this is deplorable, diabolical. This is insane. Like, literally. And because I was vomiting so much, they were like, okay, we're going to give you Gravol. For whatever reason, they gave me Gravol. Your girl went to sleep. I woke up. I was completely frozen. I was completely frozen when I woke up. And when I woke up, it was time for me to push. And I was like, let's do this! Let's do this! But yeah, I'm someone who, my body obviously can take the epidural, but like, there were so many people that I talked to after who were like, I got the epidural and that was the end. I was completely frozen. It never wore off. I didn't feel anything. Like, my stepmom was like, what do you mean? like it was, there was a lot of people who had like no idea what I was talking about. A friend of mine actually had an epidural with her first. And she was like laying there and she's like, oh my goodness, this is what Tyler was talking about. Like, she could still feel stuff. So yeah, that's part 2 of like, I never played that scenario in my head that I would need 2 epidurals when giving birth, which is going to lead me into part 3 where I'm going to talk about the catheter. So come back.